Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to this webinar on automated business process discovery and analysis. My name is Dean Robertson. I'm a solution architect with the EMEA team with Worksoft, and I'll be taking you through today's 30-minute webinar. A couple of things first. I'm going to start by a quick introduction to Worksoft, the concept of automated business process discovery and analysis. And then I'm going to go on and give a live demonstration of this capability, and then at the end come back and address any questions that may have been raised. So first of all, Worksoft. Worksoft, American company, been around for a few years, 10, 15 or so years, and we provide solutions for intelligent automation. We break our capabilities down into three main areas. Shown here: automated business process discovery, automated business process testing, and robotic process automation. So to set the scene on, we'll be mainly focusing on automated business process discovery today. This is the ability to help an organization understand the reality of how their users use the applications and how they follow through processes, end-to-end processes within their environment. The middle piece, automated business process testing, this is often fed by our process discovery capability. This is the ability to take a process as it exists within an organization and have the Worksoft technology known as Certify test that in an automated fashion. So removing the need for any kind of manual or test, legacy test automation. Finally, the other area that Worksoft focuses on is robotic process automation. This is a reasonably new term. You might have heard the term digital labor. This is basically applying automation technologies to processes within an organization that are very manual intensive and are ripe for being replaced by software robots. So things like month-end reconciliations, material reconciliations, checks across systems to check that the data in target and source system are the same. All of these things are things that might typically be done by an end user today, but the Worksoft intelligent automation platform makes it possible to automate those and have those done by software robots in effect, and therefore reduce the amount of effort required. So that's really the capabilities of Worksoft. But where we're going to be focusing today is on the business process discovery and visualization and analysis capability. This is a technology called Analyze. Now, why has this come into being? And there's just a couple of slides here to set the scene. We're seeing increasingly that different technologies are forming part of an organization's enterprise landscape. If we go back just a few years, you might find an organization is using something like Oracle Financials or SAP's ERP system to run their business. But now increasingly there's different technologies coming into play in that process landscape, and users are using a mix of applications. And what tends to happen is, historically even it happened anyway, was that users were fairly kind of siloed or stovepiped in their use of an application, and they didn't really appreciate what happened downstream or upstream of their use of a given application. That's become even more of a problem recently with the introduction of all of these, and these are just some examples, different types of technologies that organizations are using in their enterprise landscape. Then we add in the complexity of some of these are sourced as software as a service applications, other coming private, public cloud, on-premise. Organizations start to lose control of the change and the integration between the applications. So understanding how a user or sets of users within an organization in reality use the applications becomes a key component, a key enabler to doing a number of different things, one of which might be to do process automation for testing of a new release or change. It's important to understand how your business actually functions to do that. Might be process optimization. So organizations might bring in an army of consultants, time and motion studies, interviews to understand how the processes are used, where efficiencies can be gained. Having a good knowledge of the reality of how an organization and its users use the applications becomes a key enabler to do that. And that's what the Analyze platform is really there for. We see a number of different uses for this. You can take an example where, let's say, we're building out, we want to automate the testing of a particular business process. Today that involves a business analyst maybe sitting down, walking through the application that they use. So an end user, a business analyst will walk through the application and they'll be documenting the process that they go through, the steps they go through. They'll be taking screenshots, writing out a kind of narrative, a description of the steps they go through as they execute through that process. And that document gets passed either to someone to do manual testing, or it gets passed to an automation engineer, someone who then takes that documented process flow and tries to emulate that or repeat that in some automation, in a tool that's designed to automate and test the application. And this process, there's a number of different feedback loops that go round and round in this before we get to a point where the manual tester has a document that works, or the automation engineer has produced some automation that matches exactly what the business user wants to see tested. And it's error prone, it's human, so it's timely, it's costly, and of course things change all the time. So once this is done once, change comes along, and that automation, that documentation, is now effectively redundant, has to be maintained and changed and updated. So this is a costly exercise for an organization to go through to be able to get to the point where they can test and remove risk from their organization. Worksoft has produced a capability called Analyze. It's a software capability designed to help remove a lot of the pain, to eliminate a lot of the pain and time and effort involved in that sort of endless feedback loop that we saw in the previous slide. And Analyze itself is broken down into three key areas: discover, visualize, and analyze. So for discover, this is helping an organization understand how the applications are actually used. So you'll see this in the demonstration. We place a small piece of agent software or client software onto a desktop. We give some minimal training to the business analyst, the end user. And with that in hand, that tool in hand and on their desktop, they can just simply go through their day job, and the engine will be capturing the interactions they have and turning that into something that then can be visualized and analyzed by taking on the role of a higher level user, a process owner potentially. An analyst can take the information that's captured from these various installations of this agent around the organization and get a real visual view of how the organization, how the people within the organization use the application. So from the visualization side, we can start to see these process flows. We can start to manually create our own process flows where we'll see these siloed effects where individual users will be contributing components of the process in terms of the captures, but a super user in Analyze can then chain these together to build out a true view of the end-to-end process, and can have various assets generated as a result of that. So process documentation and automation assets can be generated off the back of that. And within this visualization engine, we can do a number of key things involving placing overlays of statistical information that might be of interest over these process flows to show and help analyze and filter to get some real knowledge. And we will show that. I will be showing that during the demonstration. So let's move into the demonstration environment. I've got to switch into my demo environment. This is a live demo. So as I go into my demo environment, there's a couple of things I want to show first of all. I'm here in my demo environment with the Worksoft environment. I've got a couple of applications running. I've got, just as an example of a web application, this is a software as a service web application, Salesforce.com, the CRM application. I've also got SAP running here. So I'm going to be using those applications for my demonstration just to show the principles. I'm also signed into the Analyze engine. Now we have the concept within Analyze of what we call workspaces, and a workspace is simply put is a filtered view of the process knowledge that we've captured in a period of time. And the filter will help dictate what's shown, the date ranges and so on. So at the moment I've got an empty workspace. If I refresh this, we'll see that it comes back empty. The reason being my current set of filters are all the captures by a given username that have happened today. So I've intentionally started with a blank workspace just to show the principles that this is a live demo and we will be capturing live things as we go. So let's come back to the application. So Salesforce, I'm going to take on the role of several different users as I go through this demonstration. First of all, I'm going to take on the role of a business user who's responsible for creating opportunities in the CRM system. Now, as I said, with minimal training given to the user, we simply get them to do their day job. The minimal training involves a few things. In my system tray, I have the Worksoft Analyze Capture engine running, And all I have to do is say I'm going to begin the capture. So I elect to start the capturing engine. Tells me capture's ready. And a couple of extra things I can do. I can name the activity. So I'm going to name this particular activity. Often just describe the business activity. So this is SFDC for Salesforce.com. Create op is the name I'm going to give it. Excuse me. Then, as a business user, I just walk through what I might typically be doing if I was trying to build out a document to describe how I want this to be tested. I walk through, so I select the accounts. I've selected Worksoft Incorporated there. I'm going to scroll down, click on the new opportunity button. I'm going to give it an opportunity name. Now let's call it webinar, and we'll put in the time currently just to show that this is unique. The current time of this system is 04:12 in the morning, so I'm going to put that in. I select the type of my opportunity. So as I said, I'm just going through doing what a business user might normally do. Select the lead source. In this case, I'll go for web. The amount is, let's put in 18. Pick a close date. I'm going to put in today's date for the close date. Select a stage. I'm going to go closed one here, excuse me, and press the save button. And that's completed. Now that might be, as the role of the end user I've taken here, that might be all I do day in, day out. And I've used the capture engine here running. I'm going to say end capture. That has analyzed the activities that I've had, and it's now sent that information into the analyze engine, the visualization part I showed at the start. So now I'm going to take on the role of a very different user. I'm going to take on the role of someone who uses SAP's ERP system. So I've got SAP running here. Now imagine this would be a different machine, a different user. I'm having to do this all in the one machine, but I'm going to take on the role of a very different user, someone who creates sales orders within SAP. So again, I just say begin capture, tells me that capture's ready, and I'm going to go through and create an order within SAP. So there's SAP specific stuff that I'll be showing here. That this is a transaction code to start a create sales order function. So I say enter, and then I just put in my test data. So the organization I'm selling to, the distribution channel, the division, click enter, who I'm selling to, who I'm shipping to, what my material is, what the order quantity is, click the enter button, click the save button, and as a user, that's my job done. That's what I do. Now there are some additional pieces of training we can give to these users around the capture engine to help gather more knowledge from them. So in this case, there are a set of hotkeys that I've been educated about. There's a hotkey for inserting a comment. So I hit the hotkeys for comment, and I say to the person who's going to be consuming this asset, please verify status bar. So that's the comment I'm putting in. So this is what I want someone to verify down here. I can also put in screenshot steps. So I can do the same hotkeys and say what I'd like to do is at this stage in the automation, I'd like to take a screenshot and say OK. And again, I end the capture. And that will be sent up to Analyze Engine again. Now, final role I'm going to take on here is someone doing something a bit different in SAP again, in this case. Someone who creates, in this case, the delivery function, the delivery process for a particular order. So again, I'm going to start the capture engine, taking on the role of a different user on a different machine, and I'm going to do the create outbound delivery function. So I put that in here. I need to give it a shipping point. I need to give it a date, which is sometime in the future, 09/22/2016. The order number, click enter, click save, delivery's been saved, and again, end the capture. So what's happened is I've taken on the role of 3 very different users going about their day job with some minimal training in the capture engine, and we've taken the knowledge, the things those 3 users went through, and that has all been promoted up into sorry, this is the wrong screen, into the Worksoft Analyze space. So if I come in here now, as you remember this was blank when we started, if I now refresh, what we have now is 3 business process modeling notation views of the different captures that we went through as 3 different users. Now these individually, these not particularly interesting to look at, but they're the building blocks of a process flow. Now, there are some detail behind this. So if I come, for example, to the Salesforce opportunity, the Salesforce Create opportunity, and right-click and say I want to see the details, what I get is if there had been more than one person capturing this same kind of function, I would have the captures down here, but I've got some screenshot details of that process as it went through. And what I can do is request various things to be generated. So let's say I want some documentation of this particular process. I'm going to say create documentation. We'll call it webinar SFDC op. I can choose PDF or Word. I'm going to go for Word in this case and say generate. I can also request some other things from this. So for example, let's take this one. I've requested some documentation. I'm going to request some automation be generated for the create sales order function. So I come in here and say create automation. We're going to call it webinar create order. That will generate some automation, and I'll come on and show this as the very last thing that I do. So there's a few bits and pieces I can do immediately with these individual process flows, but when they start to become more interesting is if you bear in mind that these are process pieces that have come together from individuals doing their capture. What I can start to do is as the process owner, I can start to say, okay, I recognize that some of these are components. What I'd like to do is construct a manual connection, a sort of compound process. I'm going to say I want to connect these activities because in my business I recognize that we should be doing a create opportunity followed by a create order within SAP. And what you'll see is the Analyze Visualization Engine has now taken that and has given me what we call our multivariant view. So I can see, for example, that variant 3 in this case, in this particular workspace, is just where I created the opportunity, where that user created the opportunity. I have variant 2, which is just the creation of the sales order within SAP. But variant 4 here is the manually connected variant that I have, that is now the compound process that I'm building out that represents my end-to-end business process. And this manually connected process, I can ask for documentation and automation to be generated. And let's do that. Let's call this end-to-end. Webinar end-to-end order to cash, for example, might be the process name I give it here. And that's going to generate a Word document for me there. So I can start to construct from the various pieces end-to-end processes. If I've had users who were doing longer captures, so each of these I've done as individual components, but if I had a user who was flowing through multiple different technologies, then that would be visualized in this view as well. Now, what we can start to do here to start to do the analysis and visualization part is we can start to overlay information onto this. So things like where there is, we've got some standard overlays we provide here, but you can upload into this any particular piece of data that is important or representative or useful to you. So we have customers who upload the business cost of a particular function. So they can then overlay and see the heat map. So we can see here I've overlaid the think time. This has come from the capture engine here. If I go to the details for the VA01, if I go to the various heat map details, average think time for all the captures that we have in this workspace, 5 seconds on that. So I've got some useful process optimization type information that I can use and see. If I look at the details for the creation of the delivery, I've got the average think time on that screen was 8 seconds. And obviously the more captures you have going on with more users, they will come together. Common activities will be collapsed into a single view here, but we'll get those interesting heat maps. Now, before I go and look at the documentation and the automation, what I want to do is come back and just switch to a different workspace here. So if I come to my welcome screen, and this is one that has many more captures involved in it and longer process flows that users have gone through. And this is all very SAP specific in this case. But we start to see the more complex type flows that people are going through. And then we can start to overlay, not in this case we've got think time, but let's say we wanted to go with think time versus number of times this process has been executed. We can overlay all of these different things. So I put that versus, let's go for number of captures we have. So I can start to overlay multiple heat maps against each other so I can spot things that might be important to me. And again, these are long, complex processes captured from the end user. Analyze has consolidated common activities and gives me all these variant flows so that now I can pick a particular flow and say I'd like to create automation and documentation for the particular flow I have here. One thing to point out while we're here, we can export the workspace. We can take a filtered view, and this can be filtered further. If I open up this panel down here, we can see we can add in lots of different filters to tighten this into a particular view that we're particularly interested in analyzing and placing heat maps against. I can then export this workspace to a number of other technologies, export formats we support for Visio, for RS, so XP, DL, XML, BPMN. So the workspace can be exported and used elsewhere. Let me come back to my original workspace that we've built up through the demo. It's called blank, but it's now no longer blank because it's got some useful information in it. And let me show you the stuff, the assets that we created. So I asked for some documentation to be generated. Let me go to my documents. Let me go to webinar SFDC op. If I open this particular document up, what we'll see is some metadata about the actual document itself, what workspace it came from, the dates. Then we get into some, let me make this a bit clearer hopefully, let's find a better resolution. We've got screenshots of the activities, so the various screens that I went through. We also have what we call our narrative, which is the actions that the user took. I sent a click to the Worksoft Incorporated link. If we go down, we'll see I pressed the new opportunity button. And with every action, we get snippets that are screenshots and snippets of the various objects we interacted with. So here's where I input the webinar, and that was the time when I did it, 0412. So we've got the opportunity name field, we've got the type of customer, I selected the item new customer in that combo box. So very detailed documentation of the process or the capture that individual user went through. No need to ask the user to do that. It just happens. We can generate this automation immediately, the documentation from that user just going about their day job. So that was one capture. This one was where I manually created a process by connecting together the Salesforce and the SAP create sales order function. And we'll see here we've got the same piece of documentation starting off with the Salesforce automation, but then going through after that we go into the SAP actions where I input the order type, the sales organization, the distribution channel and division. So very detailed documentation brought about just simply by those end users doing their day job. From a analysis and visualization capability, over a period of time these workspaces obviously become more interesting and you can filter them into things that you want to see and then analyze the heat map information and the custom heat maps where you can upload any kind of name value pair type statistical data you have about these business functions. Allows you to really dig into how the applications are used within the organization. And of course the final stage in this, obviously it might be you might be doing this for business process optimization type purposes. It might be for analyzing test coverage, so seeing where there might be an anomaly. So if I come for example to a different workspace I have, we have an example where we had, if I can find the right workspace, this one here. This was a workspace from an existing customer who shared this with us. They thought their process flow was this for their users, for their creation, their end-to-end order to cash process. They spotted anomalies in their process. There were people stepping outside the process and doing something differently. So that allowed them to go and target some training, maybe some changes to the technology. But from a testing perspective, the concern for this organization was that this particular process flow, and this is changing a sales order immediately after editing it, they did not have any test coverage here. So they were able to select that variant 2, I think this one is, and then say, I want automation created for it. And that added automation, an automation asset for this particular function into the Certified platform. So I'm going to step into the Certified platform. If you remember, I asked Analyze to generate some automation for that create sales order. So now we go around and we effectively collect up the pieces of automation into the automation execution engine, which I'm signing into now. And if we come into this, I'll just quickly go to my folder area. I've got a folder here, and I'm going to say what I'd like to do is import some automation that's been generated out of the Analyze engine. I give it my credentials to sign into the Analyze capability. And here is the webinar create order automation that I asked it to generate. It's going to ask me which part of the system I need to drop this into. It's a sales and distribution function. And here we have a piece of automation now generated. Now, very quickly, if you remember the narrative I showed you in the documentation that described the actions the user took, the automation within our Certify engine follows a very similar principle of a narrative. So I input OR into the order type field 3010. If we go to the bottom of this, we'll see the steps where the user put a comment step in saying, please verify the status bar. So that's been added as a comment to the automation engineer when they're refining this. And I also put in a step, I executed those screenshots, those hotkeys to get a screenshot to say I want a capture of the current desktop. So I now have some automation here. So let me bring up SAP and we'll show this running. I'll run this process straight away. So without any effort on the part of the user, they've just simply turned on the capture engine, walked through their daily activity, and we've got documentation, we've been able to analyze it, and here is Certify now repeating the activities that user went through. So within under 30 minutes, I've talked you through the creation of taking on 3 different roles, creating process documentation, helping an analyst understand how the processes are used, and we've also generated automation assets off the back of that can be run within minutes. Just to show you quickly the results this passed, we get a breakdown that this is the create sales order process, all the various individual steps passed. There's the step where I asked for a screenshot to be taken, and if I go to the results here in the test step image, there's the screenshot within the results of that particular step. So very easy to get users involved in assisting in helping you understand how applications are used, generating documentation and automation assets. No more sitting and screenshotting into Excel sheets or Word documents, no more time spent with analysts interviewing them about how they use the application to get an idea of how it might be optimized. All of that information is now immediately available as a result of the user almost simply just going through their day job with the engine running. Let's come back to my demonstration. So in summary, as I think I've just said this, automated discovery, optimization and document creation, no effort on the part of the business analyst other than that minimal training to turn on the capture and turn off the capture. If you're looking at this for automation purposes, then the automation engineer gets handed automation straight off the bat and they can then polish that. So that's a quick introduction to the Worksoft capability. We've got 1 minute left on the webinar, so I'm going to take a look at the questions. So let me look at the various questions here. Do the statistics pull out the different populations that identify the various overlaid? Fred, I don't actually understand that question. We could probably look at that separately. This is all being recorded and there will be a follow-up, so there'll be an opportunity to get some clarity on that question. Internationalization, yes, that's supported. How is automation parameterized or broken out for user input? Yep, so you saw that the automation that was generated was static in terms of the data. It was the data that the user had provided as part of the capture. Very easy to separate out the data from the automation logic. So I can provide a test data sheet with all of the different variants, but the actual steps, that narrative of input this value, press this, will be followed once for each row of data. Question on able to calculate and estimate the benefits of the tool. Yes, we have tools that help support generating a business case based on a number of different things. So it's efficiency, it's reduced cost, it's being able to, less tangible benefits being because you've got greater test coverage and greater confidence and less risk, you can potentially release more rapidly, and that has some benefits. So as I said, this is being recorded, this will be shared, there will be a follow-up, but I do hope that's been a useful 30 minutes on a Monday morning. My name's Dean Robertson. If there are any questions, obviously you have the email address of the invite. Thank you again for your time.